good? This is your boy DDQ with Vision Eye View TV, and in tonight's quick recap stream, I just want to talk about last Sunday's interview with El Chal, because I did promise I was going to translate what we talked about. Um, so I want to do that, and at the same time test out a few things on this end. So let me know if y'all can hear me first of all, because I had to like pretty much redo a lot of settings. That includes audio, visual. As you can see, the background is working again, but I had to pretty much reset everything. Like I readjust the settings in a lot of areas. So if y'all can let me know in the live chat who all is here, that way I can kind of like um, know if I'm going to spend a lot of time on the stream, which I'm hoping just like a quick 15 or 30 minutes at the most, just to explain the Sunday interview that I had with Chal, amongst a few other things that I do want to talk about, of course. But let's see if I can get this rolling on this side. Okay, I think I got the. If y'all can hear the music, just let me know. I'll put it at 7. Okay. All right. So while I do wait for a few people to chime in and say hello and all that good stuff, um, as y'all know, I mean, at least those of you who were here this past Sunday, I had the pleasure and honor to have on this channel one of the greatest, most iconic, most legendary, well-known, pioneering Christian rap artists from back home in PR. And I say it was an honor because I really did and do still look up to him and any other Christian rap. I don't like using the word artist because it's kind of like it takes away from what they really do. But I know if I say minister, a lot of people won't get what that means. So we'll just stick with artists for now because it's easier for you guys to understand. Um, but yeah, no, I had him on here, and he is pretty much re-involving himself with the music quote unquote industry and or just music world in general. And we had a good time. Like this past Sunday, we had a great time. We had a great conversation. We hit a lot of questions and things that I wanted to touch on. There's a lot of questions that kind of remain unsaid. And so I did tell him that I would be looking forward to having him on the channel again at some point in the future, because there's a lot of questions that uh, I feel were left in the air, and were at least at the very least important to me. I know there's other questions that probably have more significance to other people that grew up listening to him as well. So hopefully in the near future, once I have him on here again, we can kind of like talk about those things. But I wanted to be understanding, and I didn't want to take up too much of his time because, of course, if you know me, you know I'm extremely considerate and I'm extremely understanding and extremely respectful of people's time. I actually wrote about it on a Facebook post early today. You know, I don't like bugging anybody. I don't like feeling like I am, pretty much like making someone feel suffocated or something. And I say this because I don't like feeling that way myself. Um, but yeah, that being said, I tried being respectful and considerate of his time. Matter of fact, I asked him in advance how much time was he able to give me, because I didn't want to go beyond that. So, he told me like around the range that he was able to work with. And he was actually the one who kind of like went beyond the time that he had placed for himself. So it was kind of funny because, I'm over here like trying to be like, you know, concise, short, sweet, and to the point, and uh, not be too crazy with the time or whatever. And yeah, he just kind of like went beyond what he stated. So I thought it was kind of funny. But okay, so I'm not going to play the entire stream of the interview. But what I will do is go through some of the key moments of the interview and kind of like place like my question and then do like a recap of his answer. Because if I were to sit here and translate every single word and like sentence that I say and he says, would be here until tomorrow. So as fast as a translator than I am, as I am, I guess. Um, yeah, let me just kind of like, I guess, bring this over here real quick.
Que yo, ¿verdad? En este poco tiempo, ¿sabes? Yo lanzamos el disco, ya el disco lo habíamos acabado en octubre del año pasado, pero pues por estrategia.
Right here, it's funny because I asked him something, and he actually started talking about something else, I guess to kind of like build up to his answer. But I think my question was kind of like I asked him, how was his like beginnings in the music ministry? What was his like his first kind of like years before he started recording like actual music and all that, and pretty much like I guess the build up towards his like first album and how he met the other guy. That's kind of like the question that I gave him, basically, kind of like to state or summarize his beginnings within the music world per se. And so he started the answer by pretty much talking about the last album that he had just dropped recently, um, which we'll I'll try my best to like get to that and at the very least like show it on here. But he started the answer like with that, like opening with that statement, how he had recently dropped an album. Um, but he slowly builds up to the actual answer that I kind of like was like getting at. So
Llama, ¿sabes? Si lo tiramos en noviembre y alguien.
Pues yo tengo, ¿verdad? Yo sigo a muchos de estos ministros de la música todavía, obviamente. Y yo tengo a Iván Filo. Entonces. Okay, so this is when I was pretty much letting him know, like, hey, the reason why I was even interested in like bringing you on to interview you is because um, I still follow a lot of Christian rap artists on Instagram, and one of those artists is Ivan Dofilo. Um, and Ivan Dofilo, he had Child on his podcast for an interview. Um, and I was unaware, and but obviously because when you follow someone, notifications, like they'll chime in every now and then depending on how you have the setting on or whatever. So I just happened to kind of like scroll through and see a picture of a child with Ivan Dofilo, and so that kind of like caught my attention. I was like, you know, that's crazy. I mean, in a good way. I was happy and excited that he was in there. But then I kind of had to ask, was this like recent? Was this like from years ago? Like, what is this? And then I found out that it was indeed a recent interview that Ivan Dofilo had with him. And it got me curious because I was like, I wonder if he's available to, like also like do podcasts or appearances like anywhere else. And, you know, oddly enough, that's I kind of like I took a bold move and bold step and like kind of reached out to him, and that's how him and me went back and forth through the DMs, and he was kind enough to like agree to being on the show, being on the channel, um, and I even explained in advance how technically this isn't a Christian channel. This is I guess you could say like a Christ-centered channel because we try to do our best to kind of like give you guys like um, better options than the usual mainstream and secular pushed media. So I guess you could call it Christ-centered in that way, but this channel per se is not a Christian channel. And I don't like even labeling it like that because a lot of things are said here that a lot of people in the Christian world would find harsh or offensive or just kind of like taboo. And so that's why I was like letting him know in advance, like just letting you know this is not a Christian channel. This is not like a ministry or nothing like that. It's just a channel that dedicates its time to offering people better options when it comes to music that actually might be beneficial to them, etc., etc. But yeah, I kind of like told him how I found him, and él es uno de los que tampoco recibe el reconocimiento.
Con el disco mío como solista, familia es católica. Yo conocí.
So around this time, he starts explaining like his testimony. He pretty much like starts pouring out and giving like the whole story behind how he actually came to Christ. And if I remember correctly, his family was Catholic, so he grew up with that that Catholic mindset, and he was a Catholic, but by word. He wasn't like one of those like practicing Catholics, and he had a best friend who just happened to be Christian. And so, they were kind of like messing around, goofing off one day. Um, and they were helping out with like the horses because, of course, they lived in an area where it was mostly like farm and like countryside and all that. And the story goes, of course, this is just me being extremely vague with the testimony because it's um, a lot more intricate than this. But basically, there was pretty much like a bet, and they kind of said to each other, "Well, okay, let's make a bet, and if 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 they if I win a horse or if I'm gifted a horse, then you'll visit my church for a day, right? And if you win a horse or are gifted the horse, then I'll go to your church service one day." And so like a freak of nature, it just so happens that one of the people in their area, in their neighborhood, um, they won a horse, but they didn't want it. Like, you know what I mean? Like they were gifted a horse, but they didn't want that horse, so they gifted it to the child's best friend. And so Chad ended up going to his best friend's like church, and the rest is history basically. But obviously you have to watch the actual interview between him and me to like kind of like understand more in depth of like, because there's a little bit more to it than what I just said. But yeah.
Sí, a un amigo de la infancia que era cristiano apartado, amoral. Pero nosotros en el barrio.
Específico. Oye, pero qué fenomenal, los problemas, porque siempre estamos o aquí o en la iglesia o, tú sabes, haciendo algo.
Servicio de jóvenes. Nunca habían dicho que era media vigilia.
Okay, so this is actually part of the testimony where he's talking about that there was later on there was another moment because he had fallen off the faith, and as always, per usual, well, not always, but it happens many times that when someone converts to Christ and falls off or whatever, sometimes a female or a girl is kind of like the catalyst of bringing them back to the Lord's path. And this is kind of like what happened to Chad in this moment of the testimony is, he kind of like went to church to a service because he liked the girl, and I think they did have a thing for each other, but he really liked her, and so she invited him to a church service, and she had told him that it was a youth service, right, like a teen service. So off of those bases, he agreed to go. You know, he was like, "Yeah, fine, I could totally do that or whatever." And when he gets there, it's one of those like half day or like yeah, like half day fasting and praying type of services. So it wasn't like your typical. It wasn't your typical youth service. It was like a little bit more involved, and he ended up getting prayed for, and the Lord spoke to him in a very powerful way, which led to him kind of like taking things a lot more seriously, so on and so forth. But let's see if I can kind of like fast forward a little bit here.
Perfecto, pues así comenzó todo. Dios empezó a ayudarme a poder limpiar mi nombre. Entonces, pues ya me empecé a involucrar.
Sería como que ver, escuchar cómo era el primer CD.
Y empezaste a atrapar.
So in this moment of the interview, he was pretty much like stating, like how the first album came to be between him and Maso. And I told him, it's crazy. I knew about you guys. Like the first album I had heard from you guys was the second one. So I heard the second one and the third one, and then every other kind of like off-branch CD that you guys came out with. But I never ever heard the first one. So he was telling me, well, I mean, if you already heard the second, third one, then I would not do like it would be doing you like not doing you a favor if you kind of like go backwards and like listen to the first one. So if you haven't listened to it, don't worry about it. It's not a big deal. And he goes on to say that the difference production wise and everything else between the first one and the second one was huge, because in the first one they pretty much did everything off of like a keyboard and like one of those like beat samplers and all that, whereas in the second and third one and all the ones afterwards, they actually used like actual like producers and beat makers and people who were like really high grade, like on top of like their A game when it came to like music production and music recording and all that. But yeah, I'm just kind of like skipping through like the stream because I'm not going to be here all night.
La vida cristiana después de la iglesia era cero.
Gotcha.
Obviamente la juventud para ese tiempo querían hacer cosas y pegaron a salir los pop cristianos y se pasaban limpios, tenían sus billares,
Okay. This is part of like the testimony. He's talking about how there was a huge, I guess, like moving of like the youth, like the Christian youth back home, and how there was like certain locations where you can. It was kind of like a Christian cafe slash like bar slash like not nightclub, but think nightclub without like the alcoholic drinks and like the sexualized dancing. You know what I mean? Like it kind of like try to think of that. And there was like locations like that where they were becoming of a blessing, because it's a place that you could go to and hang out and not necessarily like need to like drink or get drunk or do drugs or whatever. It was just like a hangout spot for the youth in general. You didn't have to be Christian. It just, if you happen to be Christian, you would kind of like get the full experience, because they would also have like like little, I don't like saying poetry stuff, but those things where you can like share your testimony and share your experiences and share I don't know, godly things, if you will, aside from the actual music playing consistently and there being food and like just non-alcoholic beverages and so on and so forth. And he was just explaining how they used to get invited a lot to like those places at first, between that first and second CD had came out for them.
La única diferencia era que no había bebida alcohólica, que el ambiente era un ambiente sano. tal vez en una plaza pública. Nos tocó cantarle una vez en Fajardo, en un sitio que no era cristiano, pero era al aire libre.
Hay una canción de Gabriel Rodríguez y revisé el disco, creo que de principio.
En verdad, lo que fue la trayectoria de VIP, lo que es para la nueva escuela que quiere.
Okay, so I'm pretty sure I might have skipped it, but there was a part where he was talking about another moment that he had. It was kind of like a testimony, basically stating how they got invited to a secular like mainstream nightclub to like sing because one of their songs was going to be featured on a secular album. And they got invited to that nightclub, and they sang their heart out that night in there. It was just one song, I think. And right after they got done singing, they got asked to go to the bathroom. And so there's like a huge bouncer from the nightclub that escorted them to the bathroom. And and he tells of them kind of like being like just a little concerned because it was like, this is really odd, this is not right, this is not, you know what I'm saying, this is not normal. And so they were kind of like praying, for like protection and all that. And then basically the guy who had asked him to go to the bathroom or whatever because he wanted to talk to them, he tells him, hey man, like pray for me, I need y'all to please pray for me because this is, he started kind of like opening up to them. And so they prayed for him. They prayed for the guy. I don't know if it was like the owner of the bar or the nightclub or whatever. But I think it was something along those lines, if I'm not mistaken. So, they had, I guess, a few experiences like that with like different nightclub owners and just overall just like other people from like different nightclubs or places that they got invited to, basically. Let's see.
Porque piensa decir, no, en cinta. Hice 1500 discos.
Okay, so two things that he kind of like talked about right there. He basically told the testimony of how his baby girl had she was born like prematurely, and there was a lot of stuff that she was going through. And it was just like those like tough moments where medically she wasn't supposed to, survive and like grow or whatever. And he talks about how when she was born, she was smaller than his hand and all this other stuff. It's crazy. However, him and brothers and sisters in Christ, they prayed for the baby girl. And she is, alive and kicking nowadays, just fine, everything normal, everything just, completely just a huge victory, And I believe he said that he had Samuel Hernandez. If any of you guys know who that is, then yeah. He had Samuel Hernandez like go to the hospital, and he pretty much told Samuel like the situation with the baby girl. And he had like dedicated a song to her in a concert that he had later on. And he was talking about those complications in the early stages of his daughter's life. And then after that, he was talking about how the differences between back then, what it really took financially to pretty much like develop and produce an actual album, and the money that had went to it, and how when he went his separate ways, away from his like colleague, how he had put a certain amount of money into his solo album. And he says he sold like the first batch of like albums that he had, from the get-go. And then how people immediately right afterwards started kind of like pirating like the album and just kind of like making copies and all that. So he lost a great deal of money on that. And he
lo aguanté.
Pretty much he just compares like back then to like now, how like little to like no effort in comparison there is financially when developing and producing an album nowadays versus back then, you know.
Lo aguanté, no quise distribuirlo ni nada para evitar la piratería. Presento el disco, los primeros discos que vendí fue ese día y la semana próxima ya estaba pirateado por todo Puerto Rico.
Llegar al español, ver la vida restaurada, eso siempre va a ser lo primordial.
Trabajaba en un lado de la calle, están los dos cajiles y al otro lado él vivía. Había un chaval, ¿sabes? Iba a ser el...
It's basically what he was saying. And my bad, like if I'm taking forever to like explain some of the stuff. Basically, he was explaining how the primary thing with him and his music and all this other stuff is the actual gospel and like, you know, spreading the gospel. He has a very evangelistic soul and mindset, and that's something that I do respect about him a lot. That's something that kind of has been lost a little bit through time, and like new up and coming like artists and music ministers coming up. You know, the whole mindset and heart behind, you know, having an evangelistic mindset and heart for the people, you know, because that's one of the main differences between godly music and just secular mainstream music is the fact that, you know, they're giving you a chance to get to know God and Jesus and the gospel in a way where it's not pushed on you, but it's presented to you, if that makes sense. And so, yeah, he has that mindset and that heart. And I find it awesome, and I respect it, and I enjoy the fact that he thinks that way. I think I'm gonna like skip through like one or two more topics that we talked about. And
ahora como Steven Más de Show se lo pudimos poner ya en todas las de la ley, con su página, su Spotify, su todo eso. Y gracias a Dios pues está súper contento y está trabajando con nosotros mano a mano. Así que Steven, si ves esta entrevista,
he's pretty much like stating how, you know, as of like recently, you know, he had a lot of trouble in the digital world. And when I say that, I mean like distributing his music and sharing his music through like the different platforms like Spotify, Apple Music, Tidal, and all this other stuff. And he found help and support through a close friend, which is the one who is helping him and others, other colleagues of his, pretty much share and help promote like their music on these different music platforms. Let me see if I can kind of like skim through a little bit more. And no, pero de parante he tratado y siempre me da náusea cada vez que lo...
El cuerpo lo va a rechazar, pero mira, te puedo hacer un steak como así de gordo, así allá afuera, que no sabe, no tiene ni rumbo. A veces tú los ves que van a ir divagando por ahí y el Señor te da una palabra y la pasa por desapercibido. Yo soy uno, yo tengo un gran testimonio de eso y te lo voy a dar ahora.
Eso es amén a eso, mil veces.
Y eso es lo que queremos impartir. Y nada, pues con el disco ahora nuevo que lanzamos ahora el 1 de enero de este año, se llama Generaciones. Ir trabajando, el mayor obstáculo que se puede...
Okay. Basically, what he was talking about there, this last few like moments that I skipped through, is pretty much what I said earlier. How, you know, he's kind of like trying to remain having that same evangelistic type of like mindset and heart while he produces whatever music he produces moving forward, along with the album that he just dropped at the beginning of this year, apparently. Or no, at the beginning of last year or this year. And, you know, he's just pretty much saying like that is the most important thing with like what we do. Like making music is one thing, sure. But making music that causes an impact in people's lives for the better, which is something I've talked about so many times on this channel over and over again. You know, the difference between good music and great music. Good music, you know, anyone and everyone will like dance to and appreciate to a certain extent and say, oh, that's a catchy hook, that's a catchy lyric, that's a nice tone, that's a nice voice or whatever. But great music differentiates itself from good music in the fact that it causes an actual life changing moment in your life. Like when you hear the lyrics, when you listen to the words, when you hear a voice that just kind of like breaks barriers within the range, when you hear a certain singer, and your soul just kind of like gets lifted up when you feel like a certain way negative towards like how your life is going, and you hear this song or you hear this music and you hear these lyrics, and you kind of like your perspective changes for the better, and your life is pretty much strengthened, whether it be your mindset, whether it be your emotions, whether it be whatever it may be. But basically, uh, you get something that actually helps reconstruct yourself positively and leads you towards a better you, a better version of you. That is great music. That is what great music does, and that is what great music is supposed to do. Because anybody could sing nice, anybody could like sing, what I'm saying, high pitch or hold notes or have a catchy hook, but all that is temporary. What's not temporary is the lasting effect that a lyric, a verse, a hook, a chorus has on you, in the sense that it it just like truly genuinely like just shifts your life around for the better and towards the better. But yeah, let me just, I guess, speed this up a little.
Y en algún momento alguien la va a tumbar. Y el Espíritu Santo un día esto le va a decir, this is the heaven, boom, como la palma, baja, por lo menos de mi boca y la de ER, nunca va a haber uno.
He was pretty much promoting his colleague ER, Emmanuel Rodriguez, and yeah, again, a lot more was said, and a lot more of it was more detailed and in depth. I just kind of like extremely summarized everything that was said between him and me. But yeah, I wanted to test something out tonight because I just kind of like, you know, pretty much readjusted a lot of settings, and I'm trying out a new software for streaming. So hopefully it works out just fine. But yeah, those of you who were able to stop by for a few, I appreciate the love and support. I appreciate you guys always showing me love. This is only a test tonight. This is not to be taken like as a serious stream. Although of course it was a recap of the interview I had with Chad. But yeah, there will be actual legitimate videos coming your way later throughout the week, and actual legitimate streams coming your way throughout this week. So stay tuned for that. As always, guys, please check the banner that always scrolls below me. Check those links out. There's always links in the description area or the comment section. If y'all want to do me a solid and really support and your boy here and the team, please check those links out. There's actually a link that has a discount code to an awesome, amazing online jewelry store that I highly recommend, because they don't deal with blood diamonds. They deal with the highest grade of lab created diamonds, and jewelry altogether. And it looks good. It feels solid. It feels great. It looks amazing. People, give me compliments all the time on some of the pieces that I wear. So if you're into jewelry or know of someone who is into jewelry, just send them that link that's in the description or the comment section area for a discount. It's not like a huge discount. It's not gonna be like half off, but it's a discount nonetheless. So, it's a win-win for both of us, for you guys and for myself. And yeah, there's different ways of supporting this channel, the team, and myself and the family. So if you enjoy anything that you have seen on this channel, whether it be the shorts, whether it be, the interviews, whether it be like the chill streams or the podcast episodes, and you want to see us go on more frequently, and you want to hear my, what I'm saying, my my sensual milk chocolate voice over the microphone more consistently, then one of the ways of getting that done and making that happen is to support us through those methods as well. Because the more frequently that we can pay for the StreamYard subscriptions and all these other stuff that we use on here, then the more frequently you can hear our voices and see our faces and all that. So it's a win-win on both sides. But that being said, I'll let you guys go. I love every single one of you guys who has taken the time to stop by and check this out for a few. And yeah, I hope and pray the best for each and every single one of you. I'm grateful. I'm beyond thankful for all the support you guys always show. But yeah, that being said, I will let you guys go tonight. Stay tuned for tomorrow night's actual stream and multiple short videos that will be coming your way throughout the week. Yeah, that's all for tonight for Vision IV TV. And of course, as always, your boy JDQ / J King, however you want to call me. I'll let you guys go tonight. Good night. Sweet dreams to everyone, and God bless. See y'all tomorrow.